Welcome, everyone, to the Michigan Association of Secondary School Principals podcast series, featuring great discussions, insight, and resources on all things related to education and administration. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the MASSP podcast series. My name is Ryan Casey, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Nina Davis, who is the principal at L'Anse Creuse Middle School East and the current MASSP president. Nina, thanks for joining me once again.
Hey, thanks, Ryan, for having me once again.
I am excited because we are going to be talking about compassion fatigue. And although I'm not in the building anymore, Nina, I'm assuming you can confirm that this is going to be a definite topic of interest and something that needs to be discussed and learned about in the current state of education right now, as we are still battling our way through the pandemic.
100%, Ryan. I think this is an episode that our colleagues are going to find extremely informative and timely, and something that they can use in terms of what they're dealing with today.
Agree 100%. And to share a little bit about that topic with us is Travis Thomsen, who is the principal at Portage North Middle School and is also on the MASSP Board of Directors. Travis, thanks so much for taking the time being here. I know, as Nita can confirm, being a principal, you are busy dealing with many, many things. And so we really appreciate your time that you have for us this morning. So thanks for being here.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Nina. Happy to be here.
Before we jump in kind of talking about the topic, do you mind, Travis, giving a little bit of background information about yourself?
Sure. Like you said, I'm currently serving as the Region 7 rep for the MASSP Board of Directors. I'm currently the principal at Portage North Middle School. I've been serving North for 8 years. Prior to that, I was a principal in the Grand Haven area and had a few different positions in Southern California. Originally from Michigan, missing the warm weather for sure. But interest-wise, I have a deep interest in adolescent literacy as well as childhood trauma and the impact on the brain development.
Sounds great. And I think we all, could use a little of that Southern California sun right now, Travis. But let's get into this idea of compassion fatigue. It's something that every educator understands and has made it through the pandemic. Your building decided to put a formal approach towards dealing with it. So what's the basic premise to this initiative?
Thanks, Nina. I wouldn't necessarily say this is an initiative, but more of a building a professional understanding of something that impacts us on a daily basis. Anyone who's in a school building right now definitely is feeling this, but it's nothing new. I think the pandemic has definitely highlighted what's going on. It's helped us name it and identify some things that we can do to combat this growing issue among those who care for others. One of the first things that we wanted to do was build an awareness around what compassion fatigue was and try and normalize it for everyone. The term teacher burnout gets thrown around a lot and is often considered a synonym for compassion fatigue, but compassion fatigue definitely digs deeper than burnout. To define compassion fatigue, it's defined as a secondary trauma developed from caring for others who are experiencing or experienced trauma. To put it in layman's terms, it's the stories we hear every day. It's the stories that we carry in our heart, the ones that we think about after hours. It's the ones that keep us up at night. I think it felt like something we could handle in the past because it wasn't as frequent or intense. But the pandemic has brought to light traumas in students that we definitely were aware of. I think about some of the kids that we thought were intact or thought that we had it together. And over the last year and a half, their issues and their mental health has really surfaced. I would say it's also brought to surface a lot of issues, mental health issues and struggles that our staff are dealing with. And that's been something difficult as a building leader to navigate. And one of the things that we looked at, morale and attendance was getting so bad in our building that we knew that we needed to do something quickly and with compassion.
And I would have to imagine that is obviously a factor in why we are seeing, people leave the profession, right? Maybe early in their careers or halfway through, or maybe they're retiring early. I know at my own home district where my children go to school, we had another educator decide to retire early, and you understand why they are making those decisions. I'm really interested in this idea more, Travis. So can you tell us a little bit, describing it as more of a professional awareness? How did it get to this point where you wanted to bring it into your staff? What did the timeline look like in terms of how did you get it started or off the ground, and kind of where do you see it heading going into the future down the road?
Sure. I think everyone entered this school year thinking it can't be as bad as it was last year. And I think it's worse in some ways. And the way that this all kind of got going was our Kalamazoo RISA has monthly countywide counselor meetings, and my counselors came back from a professional learning that they had where they went through this training that we're about to talk about. And I knew it wasn't, we weren't the only ones that were struggling with this. Talking to other building leaders around the state and in my district, we needed to find a way to tell our staff that it was okay, that they weren't alone in how they felt, and that there are ways to combat their feelings other than just pressing forward and dealing with it. I think as educators, we often put on the positivity face and just go with it. We push through, but we knew we needed to do something. So we went to Angela Bloodstar for some professional development for our staff. She's our regional school health coordinator serving Southwest Michigan. She covers, I want to say 4 or 5 counties. So what we did was we brought our 3 middle schools together in Portage, our staffs, and had her do the training that she did with our counselors. She provided the backdrop for what compassion fatigue was, talked through some of the warning signs, things like anxiety, increased cynicism, decreased sense of accomplishment, difficulty separating work from home, poor boundaries, all of the things, all of those things are pointing to compassion fatigue. We learned a lot about some things that we do as building leaders that don't help, even though we think they do. Things like shortening meetings, providing them food, being super positive and supportive. Not that those are bad things, but they don't build the needed resiliency to overcome mental health struggles. So during that time, during that training, we completed a professional quality of life scale. And that was really to just assess our own mental well-being as well as our compassion satisfaction. People who help others, like teachers, nurses, doctors, we do it because it fills our bucket. But if you're struggling with fatigue, it feels like there are holes in that bucket. You never can quite fill it up. And so from that quality of life scale, it was more of a self-reflection on our own well-being. And then what we did from that is we looked at different ways that we could build a self-care plan. And there are really 5 kind of disciplines or areas that when you're looking at self-care that the professionals point to. And they seem pretty basic on the surface, but if you're not intentional about them, they're easy to get away from you. Things like adequate sleep, nutrition, physical activity, relaxing, socializing. Those are the things that you have to be intentional about to maintain your own mental health and your mental well-being. So we talked about examples as a group, and then we individually created our own self-care plans. And one of the things, that we do as a staff here at North is, we check in with each other. We ask how it's going, and it's a non-judgmental way. We've gotten to the point where it's okay to say, yeah, I'm not doing great today. And that's all right. And no one's here to try and fix it, but just a constant reminder of take care of yourself. Are you getting enough sleep? So that's kind of the gist of what we did as a group.
So Travis, I love this. This is not only something that staff can do at school, it's something they can do outside of school. I see it as like almost a lifelong goal or lesson that you can take and constantly use these self-care plans. So obviously I know that the pandemic was one of the driving force for this, but was this something that you were interested in doing all along pre-pandemic?
I think if I were to reflect on it, I think it's something that we as humans probably need to be more intentional about just in our own daily lives. But, the pandemic definitely highlighted it. Ryan, like you pointed out, teachers are leaving the profession at higher rates than ever. I've seen reports as high as 1 in 4 teachers are heavily considering leaving the profession or have done so. And as a state, we look at our teacher prep programs being, we don't have kids coming out of those. People aren't entering the profession and they're leaving it quicker than ever. We have a real problem in front of us. And if we're not taking care of ourselves, we're gonna be in a bad spot.
Travis, has this awareness and training and whatnot, has this spread to other buildings or parts of the district?
Yeah, like I said earlier, we brought the 3 middle schools together. So we had, 130, 150 staff members at this professional learning. And that just came out of talking to the other 2 middle school principals because, they're feeling the same way. Their staffs are in the same spot. This isn't unique to Portage or unique to Kalamazoo County. It's statewide. So, we need to be looking at mental health supports, not only for our students, but also our staff.
And I think the nice part with this professional learning is that it can obviously happen when it's not a middle school exclusive thing, right? The elementary staff are going through this and the high school staffs are. So obviously this seems like something that could certainly expand, district-wide. Central office staff could probably benefit from this type of training as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So Travis, can you talk to us a little bit about feedback and the impact that you're seeing in your building as a result of this?
No, I mentioned it kind of a little bit earlier. I think people are more authentic and real with one another. It's almost like we gave one another permission to not be okay and to be real with one another and to just acknowledge that the struggle is real. The arbitrary, how's it going? Oh, it's good, it's great. That's not met artificially anymore. It's okay to be like, I'm not doing great today. Is there any way that you can get some coverage for me so I can, take a walk, take a break, do something? That's been the biggest takeaway for me. We need to encourage that honesty with our staff because if they're not mentally there, they can't help our students who are struggling. I heard it put one way, put your mask on first before trying to save others, the whole airline thing. I think that kind of speaks to this because if as building leaders or teacher leaders, if you're not taking care of yourself, you don't have the capacity or the compassion to take care of your people. And I think that's important. We need to celebrate our people who are making healthy mental choices. We're not celebrating the teachers who are first in the building and last ones to leave because they're putting in 15-hour days. We're celebrating people who are taking a walk on their lunch break. We're celebrating people who are engaged in staff wellness activities. It's little things, but it can have a big impact on your staff.
So Travis, follow-up question. Has this allowed you as a leader to be vulnerable with your own feelings and take a step back and making sure that you're taking care of yourself as well?
Yeah, that was definitely an awareness for me. And I think, the statement of put your mask on first, that was the one thing that really spoke to me. Because if you're not in a good spot, just going through that compassion or the quality of life scale. I used to work out 5-6 days a week, and I got down to maybe 1 day a week. So those things, just building an awareness of going, yeah, I don't do that anymore, or I'm not eating great, or I'm staying up too late answering emails. Just that awareness and self-reflection and checking in with yourself every once in a while has been really important. And things are getting better.
Man, that is so true. And I got to say, Nina, we record these remotely. So virtual high five here for coming up with the idea to have Travis come on the podcast and talk about this, because, man, that was such a good topic. And Travis, we're so thankful of your time and for being willing to do that with your building and your staff and share, because as we talked about at the very beginning, just what a powerful topic that needs to be discussed even more still, all across the state, probably all across the country, with teachers and administrators and educators that are going through this. So we're really thankful of your time, Travis. We talked a little bit earlier before we start recording. So if somebody is interested, and we'll tag you with Twitter and all that info when we post the episode. But did you say there are some handouts or some learning materials that others could borrow or look at if they wanted to try and do something similar in their own buildings?
Absolutely. I'm happy to share what we have, and put you in contact with people who have done the training and can provide that for your staff if you'd like. Awesome.
Well, thanks again for being here. We really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ryan. Thanks, Nina.
Thanks, everyone.
And thank you, Nina, again. And we'll be back at it with some more MASSP podcast episodes. Season 6 is still cruising along. Remember, you can find this podcast and more wherever you get your podcasts, including the Apple Podcast Store. Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great day.